I'm Bill Selig. This is my new design studio, gallery, and gift shop. And we're here today to talk a little bit about the restoration of the garden room of the Darling Mansion, which is mostly known as the Cannon Building, from Dr. Cannon when he bought it back in the mid-60s, if I remember correctly. With me today are Derek Plattner and Doug Crampton, who is a history buff, retired teacher, and Fred Relva, who is the mason that helped me with the restoration of the floor and the fountain and some of the other portions of this building. So, Derek, why don't you tell us a little bit about your experiences here?
Sure, I will. Our whole family came here to the Dr. Cannon, so we all know the building very well. My sister worked here in the 60s, and she had a apartment upstairs with her husband and 2 kids, and it was just a lovely building. Everything kept up very well, and it was just very nice to.
Did you tell me there was a little bit of a history of fire with this building? And
actually, yes, there is. The way the building is built, it's pretty much fireproof. And the woman that lived here, she was scared of that aspect of a fire because of other things that happened in town with other fires at the time that they were scared. So this place is very, very, very well built.
you said there's a firewall between the apartment upstairs, and that in the apartment there was also a fire hose that would reach most of the house?
Yes, they actually had folks who would come in, and if there was something that the alarm went off, I don't know exactly how they did that, but they must have had a bell or something that would alert them to the fact, and they would actually take the fire hose, come out and attack whatever the problem was. And I remember seeing that fire hose on the wall. It was mounted in a metal frame, and it was made of nickel brass, and it was a regular fire hose, and they would turn the valve on, and that's how they.
And the whole house was pretty much state of the art when it was built in 1927. Is that finished?
When the first building was here, it was a wooden building, and they had problems with fire with the wooden buildings. And when it turned over to Julia, when it was given to Julia, and she had that incredible fear of fire, they made sure that was going to be the direction that they were going to go in. In addition, Julia also requested that this become a medical facility eventually. And it did. And that's Dr. Cannon, and that's how it followed through with her wishes. Pretty cool.
Yeah, there's concrete between each level. There's in the floors and the ceilings and in the attics, which most people would say, why would you need all that? But they really didn't want any problems. So this place has concrete everywhere.
But the nice thing about the concrete is you understand that about the fire suppression. However, the artwork in here, the floors and what you ended up doing in restoration.
It was nice to actually dig through to see what the original floor was.
Yeah.
So it's a shame that they actually covered everything up, and it was a beautiful 1920s terracotta tile. And they tiled over it a couple layers, and they carpeted over it a couple times. So it was a lot of work.
I've been really interested in relation to the actual depth of the construction here, the concrete, and it was basically a bomb shelter, and yet this is an art gallery. Basically, this home is. But you're the one who had to bring it back to the beauty that it is now. What were some of the things that you had to do to get even just down to the floor?
We had to get adhesive from the carpet that they had down off first, by using anything to dissolve it and hammer and chisel away. And then got down to 2 layers of thin set that they had tiled over the top of this terracotta tile twice, and then tore the tile up to put the carpet on. When I guess I would assume when the blood lab came in. So I had a lot of work with hammering and chiseling and end trowel. We tried different solvents to try to loosen up everything we could possibly, get the thin set softer. And I found that actually soaking it in water and let it sit for a while, it would absorb the water and made it softer to work with.
How long did this take, this whole process, just for the floor? How long did this?
I would get in about 5:30 every night, work till about midnight for about 3 months.
That was a long time.
Nope.
It took a long time to get this back.
It wasn't. He had to work special hours too because you had to consider the noise for the other.
The other businesses here, yeah.
So that had to be figured into the whole thing. So it was dicey.
Yeah.
He did a wonderful job.
So Derek, we mentioned bomb shelter, and you had told me something about this place that I thought was pretty interesting.
Oh yes, when I was little, coming here to the doctor's office, you could always see a label on the door, those yellow and black markings that it was, a bomb shelter. And there used to be a radio in the area where it was a two-way radio, so they must have had radio service if you needed to talk to somebody. But they were all downstairs. If you go downstairs in the basement now, you'll see all the rooms. They're all numbered, and there probably was provisions in there, blankets. They probably had beds, and that was a little before my time, but it was remnants of it. You can still see it.
It's very interesting.
It was during the period of history where that was the concern. We had bomb shelters, and
That's right.
It was the 50s and 60s. And,
WW2.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, we had Nike bases all around here. You got to consider too. So Ensign Bickford, all the industry in Hartford, they were prime targets for attack.
Yeah.
What else did you have to do, Fred, to bring this place back to the beauty that it is now?
After I did strip the floors, unfortunately, when they put their partitions in and all the walls for their outlets, they drilled many holes through this for electric. So I then had to get a bunch of different dyes because all the tiles are different colors and took their own pigment, through the years. So between a terracotta, they did a terracotta, a sienna, and one other. Do you remember which one it was, Bill? It had 3 different dyes.
Well, I know you mixed a little bit of charcoal.
A little bit of charcoal and with it too to dirty it to get some, because some of the thin set with the darker color actually bled into the tile.
Okay.
So I had to.
Finding the outline of the tank from the fountain.
Oh yeah, as we were working my way from here out back toward the fountain area, I got to a spot where I could not get the thin set up and I couldn't figure out why. And then I realized it was the tile stopped and it was the original outline for the basin for the fountain. So it was there for me, the original form.
Mm-hmm.
So when I made that, the original
So
basin
the wall had covered up the fountain. Everything had covered it up.
they had busted it
Floor,
all
everything.
out.
They had.
Unfortunately, the archway
Part of it was left.
that's not original. But the original soap sandstone, like the fireplace, had a full arch. Everything was there, but it stuck out about 5-6 inches from the brick. They broke it all apart so they could get the wall flush against the brick. So they.
So when you started, the only part of it that was remaining was the limestone center section that was recessed.
Yes, it was recessed into the brick. They didn't bust that out. So I worked on making the pillars and piers and doing a period type because unfortunately, there's no photos and no record of what the original fountain looked like.
So we did a little bit of research, and Kelly Hernsdorf was involved in coming up with period fountains that we used different takeoffs from one and then a different one, and we ended up with this design.
Yep.
And then you went to work finding different things that you could use to build it up.
All the molds,
Remember the samples?
Oh yeah, we
All
did
the
a
color
lot of-
samples.
Oh, my God,
All
yeah.
over the tables.
Yep.
And right when you were in the middle of that, who came in to visit?
Oh, I actually had a descendant from the Ketchen family. He was in town because his great-grandfather did all the brownstone, as you know, in this area.
Yep.
And he liked the scroll work and the limestone on the outside of the building, so he came in and saw what I was doing. So that was nice to have somebody that's in the business also come in and look at what I was using for materials and look at how I was going to, refurbish and restore. So he got a kick out of that. And the one thing I didn't realize and I didn't pick up on about the last name, I should have told him to go down and see the plaque for his great-grandfather on Quarry Road. But I never got a chance to tell him
It's
that.
still there, yeah.
And it's there, yeah. I think he would have got a kick out of that. He was just driving around and taking photos of all the brownstone buildings that his grandfather built.
There's a marvelous family. They own the quarry up on Quarry Road, and it's every building here in town, from Methodist Church to the grammar school to Belden to just many of the buildings here were done by the Ketchens, and it's just a nice lineage of history that we have, but also that you've continued here in this building. It's a nice piece, historically speaking. It really is.
Well, I think that it's just a wonderful thing that by happenstance he stopped in while we were doing this process and actually gave us some input and help doing the fountain.
Yep.
So that historic connection
Ties it back in.
Exactly, ties back.
it happened was quite remarkable.
Yeah.
Okay. I like the connection with the history piece. Being a historian, that's kind of the piece that I love.
Yeah.
And knowing what the Ketchens did and the amount of time that they spent in this town, dedicated to this town, it is just a really nice connection to the past here. This town's an old town. We've been around 300 years plus, so it's a nice feeling to have the people reconnect to it. It really is. I hope it stays that way. And it looks like you're trying to do that here.
Well, besides the interior, Derek, we also had some help with the exterior. They had to rebuild the patio.
Yes, we did. That was an interesting endeavor. The only difference that didn't get put back as original is the drains that were in the middle. We took those out because they were just shot, and they were cast iron, and Warner Nursery did a lot of our brick here, and they put in side drains under the windows, and it turned out very well.
Yeah, well, I know that he restored the herringbone pattern to the bricks on the sides.
He did.
The front's a little different, but the sides.
And Steve Walker from Grove Properties brought in a steel company that has been in business many years, and they did your ironwork out there. Everything is.
All the railings are new.
It's all new and to the period too. They picked out a very nice style to complement the rest of the building.
We think perhaps it was concrete railings originally that were here because of some of the outlines that we found along the edge of it. But this works into the design and the style very well.
Yeah, Julia she'd be pleased. The Darlings would be pleased. It's just a nice connection. I can imagine when this building was first built and Drake Hill Mall wasn't here, what that must have looked like, what the gardens and the walls and the original property went all the way to the Farmington River, so you can imagine how beautiful it must have been. Yeah. Having their own railroad spur kind of kept them up to date, but it must have been an absolutely beautiful site. Do you remember anything about the out?
I remember as a kid, before the mall was here, there was a field out here, and there was a lot of trees that looked to me like fruit trees, and is it the Central New England that came down from there? Yep. I think the Central New England came actually across the property and went that way, and maybe if that spur line was there, it probably came off of that one.
Yeah, yep.
But somewhere there's a video somewhere that shows, I don't know exactly where it is or who would have it, but there's a video that shows a steam train right out there, right on the side, almost within 15 or 20 feet of the building corner over there.
It's marvelous.
Yeah.
I like the fact, Bill, that you've returned this beautiful room to what it was as much as you possibly could. These are people, the Ensigns, who had a real appreciation for beauty, for Their horse carts were beautiful horse carts. They were artwork themselves. So you've tried to continue that in relation to this particular building, in this particular room. It's a great way to go about it. It really is.
Well, we're hoping also to be able to offer use of this space to the different nonprofits and different groups in town that would like to come and have events here. That's one of the purposes that I had in mind when I took over this space. And I really appreciate all three of you coming and talking with us today. It's really been fun to think about some of the things that have gone on here in the past, and hopefully we're heading in the right direction towards the future. I'd certainly like to invite everybody to come by and see what we've done with the space and imagine what it was like when the Darling family lived here and enjoyed it as their home. So thank you all very much.
Well,
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Funding for Simsbury Community Television is provided in part by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.